All right, here we are live on a Friday. I know everybody is very glad that it's Friday and this week is ending because it's been a week from absolute hell. If you are in Nashville and stuck in the ice, if you have power back, great. If you don't have power back, I hope you get it back soon. And Easton and everybody down there at the Senior Bowl from AtoZSports, I can't wait for this audio setup to be no longer, but we are now live here on the show, troubleshooting all these different weird audio things that don't make sense from Easton and JT at the Senior Bowl. So everything's great if Easton and JT do a show together. But as soon as you try to do a show with me in Nashville and somebody at the Senior Bowl, StreamYard's audio system is just not trying to cooperate. But we are live here and we're ready to talk about Robert Saleh's intro press conference from yesterday that I was at attendance for, and I have some insight. There was a media lunch with Robert Saleh before that press conference that I got to attend, so I got some insight on the process of the hiring of Robert Saleh and the overall process from the Titans, because Chad Brinker and Mike Bergonzi and Burke Nihill were also in attendance at said lunch with Robert Saleh in the Titans cafeteria, where I got to use the smoothie bar, and it was a lot of fun. And it's pretty sick. And if I were a player, I'd be eating a smoothie and making my own smoothie every damn day. So there's a lot of cool stuff to dive into behind the scenes, at the press conference, all these things. Easton, I'm glad we got this audio figured out. We've been working for like we've been sitting down here and working on this audio for 15 minutes. And so if you guys want to, you guys, we see the chat on YouTube waiting room just continuously peppering us with all this nonsense. The most frustrated
not helping, by the way. The stadium pulse is just sky high for 15 minutes because of the chat.
Technology not working the way it's supposed to work is one of the most frustrating things in my life. I cannot stand when that happens.
I agree.
You've heard me curse out things before.
I more mornings than you might think. Yes. Nobody has waited the past 15 minutes to hear us complain about technology. They're here to talk about Robert Saleh. So I will complain once and only once, and we'll move on from this. This setup sucks, and I have to. Yeah, I'm wearing the Don Davenport headphones this morning, as some people in the chat are pointing out my cute little earbuds or headphones, earmuffs. I've seen it mentioned. So yeah, we're just going to deal with it. We're going to rock and roll for the next hour, and then there's going to be some troubleshooting done on the front end in preparation for what will be planting my flag on the combine setup being just some of the best AV work you've ever seen in your life. We have a month to prepare, and we're going to get there. So that's out of the way. The Saleh press conference, extraordinarily jealous that you got to use the smoothie machine that I've not even seen ever in my life. What smoothie did you get, Austin?
I will tell you the smoothie. I did coconut water, coconut milk, pineapple, blueberries, strawberries, honey. I did a little bit of vanilla protein powder in there. What else did I put in there? Tehran
they've got it all. That's crazy.
They have like the frozen fruit bagged for the portion size. So you just grab it out. If you grab the frozen blueberries out of the freezer and you dump it in there, and then it's the best thing in the world.
That is such a dream home thing. You talk with your wife or your friends, like one day if I could just put any fun thing in my house, I'd get a movie theater or a golf simulator or a smoothie bar is high on that list. Would love like a fully
but you have to have the people who
bar.
stock the smoothie bar for you, because
I would employ a full-time smoothie guy, 100%.
Yes, I didn't have to touch anything. I just squeezed honey and put a little cinnamon in there, which cinnamon's a big deal. I like cinnamon. There's all these different things. It was awesome. It was great.
Okay, well. I'm glad you got to see it. I might die one day having never seen that smoothie bar. So congratulations. I was I will say, Robert, I was down here in Mobile and unable to go to that yesterday.
Robert Saleh did tell a media member that the open the weight room could be an open situation for media. And if anybody
now
wants
we're
to
talking.
Go, if anybody wants to go in the weight room with Robert Saleh, be my guest.
How about some content though? A little media workout session in the middle of the summer when we got nothing better to do. That is some peak entertainment.
Yes,
I might have to work on that behind the scenes. We'll see what
Let's
we can
get it going officially here. You guys need to like the show and share the show. Hit that, please. Like the show, share the show, all of those good things. We need way more likes on Facebook, YouTube. You guys were waiting patiently, but not being patient whatsoever as you were waiting. But please hit that like button now that we're live. I'll get this thing rocking and rolling here. Welcome to AtoZSports here live On a Friday, I'm Austin Stanley. He is Easton Freeze in Mobile, Alabama, wrapping up our Senior Bowl coverage. And we're Nashville's on-demand sports talk network, going live weekdays at 8:10 when audio works, a.m. Central Time, on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Links to the show segment by segment on our Twitter X timeline. That's at AtoZSports. Hit us up on Instagram, TikTok, and Threads for more great Titans content. Please follow us on Google if you want more Titans coverage on Google. Following us there on this link that I'm pasting right there in the chat is a great place to do that. That goes a long way for us as our sponsors make this happen for everybody. Wilson County Hyundai, make them a part of your new car buying process in Lebanon. Online, WilsonCountyHyundai.com. The Bone and Joint Institute, the region's destination for comprehensive orthopedic and sports medicine care. Barton Drury Insurance Group, customized solutions for all of your insurance needs, local and online at bartondrury.com. And Window Nation, buy 4 windows, get 4 windows free in January. I'll tell you this, because it's January 30th. Don't just wait. Wait until February 2nd, because the deal gets a little bit better.
Oh.
So don't do it yet. Wait until like Monday for February 2nd for WindowNation.com is where to go. So Easton, yeah, the Robert Saleh press conference was great. I know you were just like punching the clouds in Mobile because you could not be at the media lunch with Robert Saleh, where really fun things get to happen. Like, it's a unique experience. But I got to do that. I got to be Easton for yesterday, going and doing things that I don't get to do that much anymore, which is go to the Titan facility, brush elbows with the rest of the Titans media, have conversations there, and then get to talk one-on-one with Robert Saleh for 5 minutes. Like a one-on-one 5-minute conversation with the head coach, just standing in the cafeteria. It's a pretty good length of time. You cover a lot of ground in that 5 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
The guy's a big golfer. I know he's already being recruited by other NFL folks in the on which country club he's going to join. So
I would be surprised if one Mike Vrabel is part of that recruiting, because
he could
another
be.
big golfer.
Mike Vrabel represents one of the country clubs in the area, and he's got some other. I know there's 3 that he is being recruited by NFL people to join. So
I'm not going to out him like that, but I have a very strong guess in my head as to where he will land. And it's a great club. I'd love to play there sometime, Robert, if you're hearing this.
We'll see how it goes. We can talk more off the air about that one, so we don't out him. But no, Robert Saleh was phenomenal in his opening press conference, and I do have some insight on what all kind of some things that helped lead to him being the guy throughout the hiring process. But let's hear Robert Saleh to get everybody's blood pumping a little bit this morning on what he wants his Titans team to look like.
What do you want them to be known for week in and week out?
Fast and violent, man. Play in and play out. We're going to play with speed. We're going to play confident. We're going to have some swag. Talk a little shit. But I want them to show who they are. Play in and play out. And like I said, the one thing that you'll notice is the speed at which we play and the violence at which we do it.
I mean, the guy has a presence. He's in very good shape. He has a strong jaw, a strong voice, and you can feel him in the room. Just like he also mentioned, where maybe you could feel him on your couch.
Already said it, man. They're going to pop off the tape. You're going to feel like you're on the field with them, with the energy, the juice, the speed, the violence. You're going to feel it from the living room, sitting on your couch. You'll be able to feel this football team.
And those are a couple comments that I think I immediately clocked and said, that's a great tone. That's a great tone to set and a great standard to have. And then words are words, right, Easton? And I think everybody says that. And Robert Saleh did follow that up, because every coach that comes in to the Titans facility, every coach that has a team, every company, we have words at our company that mean things, right? And Robert Saleh also said, words are words, but it's all about that silent tape, because that's the resume. That's who you are on that silent tape, where there's no crowd noise, there's no anything. It's just you on the all 22 doing what you're supposed to be doing or not doing what you're supposed to be doing. And I think Robert Saleh definitely, as Burning Devil says, he commands attention. I absolutely felt that in person. What was your experience watching that press conference, Easton, from Mobile?
Yeah, I mean, he mentioned it. Words are words. We have all here in the Nashville area had the unique privilege of attending way too many of these weddings and funerals at the Titans facility, somebody getting hired or somebody getting fired. And so we have been around the block on this kind of thing. And anyone who's been a fan of sports long enough has seen plenty of introductory press conferences. They're all roughly the same, right? Everybody's happy. Everything's hunky-dory. Nobody's lost yet. Nothing is difficult yet. It's smiles and waving and handshakes and kissing babies. And so I don't mean to downplay what yesterday was, because I do think that it was the proof of concept you were hoping to see. First and foremost with Saleh, like, this is a guy whose presence is undeniable. And so you saw that. That was popping through the computer screen watching the press conference from here. He is somebody that is believable. He is somebody that is convincing. He is somebody that feels like an easy man to choose to follow. He's a leader of men type, and that is a thing that we throw around far too often. But it's very clear that was part of the selling point for the Titans. He's been around the block in the NFL long enough that we already knew that was kind of his reputation. We've heard former players of his talk about him affirmatively in that way, and I think that he showed that on Thursday.
For sure, and I think to go into how Robert Saleh separated himself, and it's a lot of what we were kind of talking through over the couple of weeks of the coaching search. But I was having a conversation with one of the Titans hiring group members in that lunch. This is actually before I talked to Robert Saleh. I talked to Chad Brinker, and Chad Brinker mentioned that they really liked Mike McDaniel. He said Mike McDaniel, the 6-hour interview that they had with Mike McDaniel in person was so much fun, because Mike McDaniel is what you'd expect. He's quirky, he's goofy, he's weird, but he's brilliant, and he's captivating to watch on the whiteboard and do all this stuff. And Brinker was like, I want to get into a dark room with Mike McDaniel and just put a spotlight on a board and just watch him go work football scheme on the board. And so they really loved Mike McDaniel. But as I mentioned here about Mike McDaniel, of him probably not getting a head coaching job in this cycle right after getting fired from the Dolphins, lacking that authoritative, that head coach, that leader of men type grasp, type presence that Robert Saleh has. And so Robert Saleh clearly was able to come in and win the room. And when you're talking about 6 hours in person, you cover a lot of ground there. He told me that he didn't get much of a bathroom break during that 6 hours, but it was they put him through it. And I'll talk more about that later on in the show. But I really did think, from the insight, Robert Saleh being that personality of leader was almost just as, if not more important than the football X's and O's of what this role is supposed to be moving forward.
Well, in Austin, I know we're going to talk about it in a second, but again, it's really easy if you want to be cynical about these introductory pressers to point to the fact that they are all ultimately the same. And for every dramatic failure in NFL history, you can backtrack to what was a really delightful introductory presser. Like every terrible coach has had a beginning day that is good vibes and everybody's having a good time. So it's not proof positive it's going to work. He has to go win football games, and this roster must get a whole lot better for him to be able to do that. But if you wanted a little bit of affirmative in that regard, when it comes to him being somebody that this organization is already buying into, one small difference was the attendance of his players.
Yeah, there was a bunch of players back there, and I didn't go to the Callahan press conference. I didn't go to the Borgonzi or the Rand press conference, but I was at the Vrabel. I was at the John Robinson press conferences back in those days. And I was at the Mike Mularkey press conference even when he was retained as the interim coach, as the head coach. And there were not players that were showing up there. I remember Buck and I were talking about. I can
remember a handful of players at these things, but never in mass the way that they were. Never a pack of a dozen of them like there were out there yesterday.
It's so many that I was like, oh, I saw pictures later, and I was like, oh, I didn't even see J.C. Latham.
It's impressive because he's hard to miss.
Right. But I didn't even realize that he was there. There were that many players there that I was able to miss J.C. Latham. So let's go ahead and ask this first question to the chat here, Easton, and get this thing rolling even more. And our first question is our one-word game. We love doing this. What's one word to describe your first impression of new Titans head coach Robert Saleh? What is one word to describe your first impression of new Titans head coach Robert Saleh? So there's a pan personal here. on all this. So one word for his first impression to you. And I will tell you guys about Barton Drury Insurance Group, customized solutions for all of your insurance needs. BartonDrury.com is the website to go to. Insurance is very important, whether it is for your home. I think a lot of people are realizing that right now with so many. I mean, it's ridiculous the amount of trees that have fallen over the last week. Still, some trees could be falling because of all the ice over the last weekend. And home insurance is a big deal because obviously we know the damage that can cause. So you have to have that policy that you can trust and the insurance company that you can rely on in those hard times. And Barton Drury Insurance Group can do that for you. They are great people. They're local in this area. They're dealing with the same things that we're dealing with and across the mid-state and across the region. So trust them. They're great. They know what they're doing. They can help, whether it's home, auto, business, health coverage for employees, health coverage for you and your family. They've got it covered right there. BartonDrury.com is where to go.
We're also brought to you by BTA Sports. BTA Sports, better for bettors. Check out the link in our description below to get a 14-day free trial on that app on your phone. In the palm of your hand, you're going to have analytics-backed betting data and advice that is going to get you more profitable at the sports book. That is the name of the game with BTA Sports. It's making more money as you are betting on your sport of choice. They've got the NFL, they've got MLB, they've got more coming in the near future. So get in now, and if you sign up today, we did the math on this yesterday, Austin. Because of that 14-day free trial, if you sign up today, you will get the entirety of course, this Super Bowl, but then the entirety of next season, including the next Super Bowl. So you'll get everything next year, and you can do a little girl math on it too if you want. Like if you pay for it now, by the time the season rolls around, it'll feel free. You know what I mean? You'll have already made the money back. So you want to do real math too. There's really no reason not to sign up for BTA Sports today.
All right, so what's one word to describe your first impression of Robert Saleh? Easton, I will send you to the chat here momentarily. One word to describe your first impression of new Titans head coach Robert Saleh. What do you see?
Promising from Z Wildcat. Hope from Rooney. Identity from Ryan. He sees an identity being brought to the Titans. Eric says fierce. Corey says goon, which is crazy.
Goon.
Justin says violence. We don't need to unpack that. Burning Devil says swag. Mr. Clean says dog with 2 W's. Optimistic says LCT. Hopeful. Energy. Violence. Hope. Fine. I hope she's just fine about it. General says Nero. We've got a couple of wait and seers in the chat, which I think is perfectly fine. Deleuze says stalwart. That's a nice word. Command. Full circle. Ready. Determination. Commanding. Leader. So a very positive, optimistic theme here in the chat. Serious and hopeful. I like this from Joshua. Testosterone, certainly. The blood pumping in that room. I mean, how can you not when you're around a guy that clearly knows his way around the weight room, as Mike Borgonzi said in the press conference. One person, for whatever reason, Rob is disappointed, but the rest of the folks in the chat are quite bullish, it seems, on this press conference and Robert Saleh's debut.
Yeah, I don't know why you wouldn't, because winning the press conference is just winning the press conference, but I do think I think for the Titans right now, like, you had to win the press conference. This is the entire reason why I said that Matt Nagy was unhireable, right? Because could you imagine what yesterday would have been if Matt Nagy was the coach?
Right.
And that intro presser, that would have been awful. Like, the vibes from the fan base would be completely different. Well, how much could Matt Nagy have won over a fan base in a press conference opening up? I don't know, but like Robert Saleh does, because he's up there. He looks good in his suit. He's got his big family, who's the most well-behaved 8 siblings I've ever seen in my life. Like, they're just very impressive. Like, the older ones are helping the little ones. The little ones are just doing their thing. They immediately line up for a group team picture and know exactly where to go, like they've done it a million times. Like, again, just very impressive overall on how his family is and how he operates. And so that's
one of the little secrets about having so many kids. Family size reaches a critical mass where suddenly your kids start to do the child care for you.
I heard him on. So Robert Saleh was on 3HL yesterday after his press conference. He said he has 80 first cousins.
So he comes from a family of large families.
Yeah, yes. And he also said that at his high school, there was a Saleh on the football team from, I think he said 1969, was his father, the first one, to 1997, which was him, the last one.
That's
There was
outrageous.
every year there was a Saleh on the football team for that long, which is nuts.
If I had 80 first cousins, maybe this makes me a bad person. I'd constantly be worried I'd forget some of their names.
Oh, I totally. I mean,
How do I keep track of all that?
I have no idea. But that brings me to my one word. My one word on his first impression is connection, and I think it's very clear that he focuses and prioritizes connection, and it's not just about player to coach, which is important, but you can clearly tell the connection he has with his family. His parents were there. His brother was there. His brother is the reason why he went into coaching. If you have not seen or heard the story, he told a little bit of that on 3HL yesterday. But it was 2001, September 11th, 2001. His brother was working in one of the towers, the second tower that was hit, and was able to get down from the 60-something floor and escape safely during the World Trade Center bombings or plane hits. And Robert Saleh was working in his cubicle and corporate whatever the hell, and just was like, I can't, this is not me. And that is the reason why he got into coaching and started his climbing the ladder as a GA after that. And so his brother was there, and his entire family was there. He had all those players that were there. And so I'm going to play this clip of Robert Saleh on why it's important for him to call plays and why that kind of lands in the connection one word that I had.
I didn't call plays in New York, and I just kind of gave it all to the coordinators, even though we were still part of the game planning and all that. I joke with Borgo on game day when I didn't call plays. I felt like I was just a timeout and red flag guy. I was just kind of I had the greatest seat in the house as a fan. So calling plays for me, it's not necessarily about control, but it's about connecting with the players. When you are a play caller and you are calling plays, you feel the strain that you're putting on them with each call. You're feeling the connection. You're feeling what each one is going through. And again, like I said, I can feel the weight of the play call on individual players in those moments. And to be able to call plays and maintain that connection, maintain that feel for what the players are going through, I think is very, very important from my seat. And it's just one of the many things that'll change throughout my tenure.
So he's got to call plays. So Easton, what's your thought on that answer on why calling plays is important? Because Brian Callahan got hated on for saying, like, I felt like I didn't have much to do in his first game not calling plays last year.
Right.
And Robert Saleh said the same thing. I felt like I was the timeout and red flag guy. So what's your thoughts on that answer?
I have to kind of be the actually guy for a second, because when I initially heard that, it made me laugh. The question was about what he wishes he had done differently in New York, like what he can improve upon from his first time as a head coach. And I completely understand what his answer was and like why he feels this way about wanting to be a play caller. It's not a good answer to the question, because the question was, what did you do bad that you now want to do good? And his answer was, well, the play calling for the defense that while I was there for 3 straight years was the best in the league. I want to do that play calling. It's like, no, that part was working. Fix the parts that weren't working. Again, I understand what he's saying. I'm being technically funny answer to a question guy. But the connection element of it is, I think, the correct takeaway. And I'm glad that's the direction you went with. I knew we were playing that clip. I didn't know what you were going to extract from it. And I think you got the right point, in my opinion. That connection.
Well,
to his players.
Just to be fair, like he was asked, the first question was like, what'd you learn from the Jets? And he's like, man, we could be up here for 4 hours. And what didn't I learn? And so like he had kind of gone through a couple of those, like, what do you want to fix from the Jets? And I think the player connection.
He was dodging the question because he had to. You can't at your introductory press conference take the opportunity to dunk on the old team that you're like. You can't do that.
Yeah, he's not going to trash. He's not going to throw
right.
Zach Wilson under the bus. He's not going to.
So again, I completely understand why he answered it. It's just objectively a bad answer to the question, but it does point out the connection element of coaching that is important to him.
And to go further into this connection thing, because again, we're at the lunch a couple hours before that answer in the Titans cafeteria. is pre-smoothie for me. I had my 5 minutes with Robert Saleh, and I'm sitting there talking with him, and he's eating a cookie, which is ironic. But and he is asking me questions. Like, I introduced myself. I kind of told him a little bit about A to Z, who we are, what we do. Easton's in Mobile. He's pissed that he can't be here having this conversation with you right now. And so he goes, "Oh, so you married? Have any kids?" I'm like, "Absolutely. I got a 10-month-old little boy." And he's like, "Oh, my youngest is 10 months old." So we immediately bond over that. And then we immediately dive into the area. He'd asked how long I've been covering the team. I'm from here. Oh, cool. What areas with this, that, and the other. So we have like a genuine like person, human being conversation. So afterwards, I go up and we're waiting on the press conference to start. And I'm circled up with like 4 or 5 different media members who all had very different interactions with Robert Saleh about different topics. It wasn't like the same conversation that he had with me repeated 18 times. It was very different across the board. It was, at some point, he started talking like stock market stuff with somebody. Like, and then he
finance degree,
right? Then he started diving into his golf game and how often he wants to play golf. And the weight room is open. And all these different things. And so he was connecting with people differently across the board. And so then I see the family, his parents, his brother, the players there, his answers at the press conference. And I was like, this connection is the word. He wants to be connected. And then the last thing that I'll kind of see before I toss it over to you about this, we don't have the clip, but the one moment answer that he had that I thought was also like run through a wall moment was these players put hours in for that 1 3rd and 4 in the fourth quarter. And when it's executed correctly, I'm their parent cheering, their biggest fan, because I know all those hours that went into that one moment. And it's like, I have to build that connection with that player for me to respond with that type of passion and excitement for that player. And so a lot of work goes into building that for that care and for that excitement. So connection was a big deal here.
2 quick comments. Bork says, I wonder what he bonded with PK over. The answer is obvious, baldness. The second one, Dav
So
says,
when did you lose your hair?
That's right. That's
how long before you decided to just shave it off?
I'm assuming that's what all bald guys begin their conversations with. Daff says, did you tell him about the silver in your windows? Because if not, that needs to be your next conversation.
I will say, whenever he did say like his family's going to take a month or so, like, before they move.
Once they find a place to buy a home.
Once you find a home, I got windows for you. Yeah.
That's right. My one word. Let's get a little goofy. Why not? My one word is Xerxes. Austin, are you familiar with the movie 300?
Of course.
It's a very obvious comp. I think anybody looks at him and has seen that movie, and it's like, he looks like the god King Xerxes from 300. Now, he's the bad guy in the movie, so that part notwithstanding. He is, though, by the way, if you've not seen the movie, this is a compliment, because he's a very attractive man who is a literal god amongst men. He is walking the earth, dominating one land at a time, and he is the ultimate leader who must be taken down, and ultimately he kind of isn't. Spoiler, movie's been out for a while. It's a story that's been around for hundreds of years, actually. So
thousands of years, actually.
So it's a little late if you're just now getting around to it.
Yeah.
The point being, though, that's the kind of leadership that it feels like he brings, and that's cartoony. It's Hollywood. It's silly, right? But there's an element of the Titans genuinely hoping that presence, that aura that he has, is something that these players buy into. Here's my second, less goofy one word, is identity. And I know somebody in the comments mentioned this when we went through and read those, but that was one of the first things that I talked about last week, doing different hits on the internet. I think that identity was a big part of this search for the Titans. And it's more than just a guy that's commanding. Like, there's plenty of guys in the NFL who are believable and commanding and leaders of men. Like, it's not the rarest trait in the world from these types of guys. But somebody that brings an identity to a team that you can easily point to, whether you're playing good or bad football, and say, listen, no matter how it goes on Sunday, this is what this team's about. It's what they tried to do. It's how they tried to beat you. That's important for teams that are so fresh and unestablished, like the Titans. When you have your identity is ultimately determined by your best players, right? So we know what the Eagles are because of the all pros that they have. We know what the Chiefs are because of Patrick Mahomes. We know what the Bills are always going to be because of what Josh Allen brings to the table. The Titans are a roster that needs a lot of work. the past couple of years, we've talked about how dramatic the turnover has been, right? Like north of 50% of the roster is different every year. It feels like during we get to week 12 and 13 of every season, and they're handing me a roster at the facility. And it's like I don't recognize these names all of a sudden. They're different on a daily basis, and Saleh is emphasizing that. And again, this is all buzzword kind of nonsense, but for this team, I think it's the exception where it kind of matters more. This fast and violent thing. It's what the Titans as an organization, since moving to Nashville, have been about. They have been about smash mouth football, violent running, time of possession, like these kind of old school concepts that a lot of fans look to some of the West Coast teams, and you see Rams 49ers on your TV screen on a Thursday night, and you kind of window gaze like, oh, it sure would be fun to have a team like that. But the reality is the Titans have never been that team. Even at their best, the best Arthur Smith offenses, right, Arthur Smith runs a West Coast variant offense that is play action and downhill running dominant. He loves to use heavier personnel. It still is kind of that Titans brand of football. It's the most Titans-y version of a West Coast Shanahan offense. So I think that he's going to he and Daboll, and this is a whole other conversation that we may or may not have this morning, Daboll and the offense that he brings to the table, which is an Earnhardt Perkins-based New England Patriots offense, very dissimilar in a lot of ways from that Shanahan West Coast offense, which we at one point thought would naturally come along with Saleh because it's what he's been around a whole lot, right? Literally with Kyle Shanahan the past couple of years. That's not what they're doing. And I think there's a couple of reasons behind that. But that's the identity of this team that they're hoping Saleh and Daboll brings to the table. And I think that they're hoping that identity, some guiding principles like that can loom over a locker room that is in the process of developing and be a goal that they all collectively work towards.
For sure. And I'm glad you said Daboll and brings the table, because that's apparently how you pronounce Brian Daboll. Daboll and table. It's the same way.
Indeed.
It's not Daboll. It's Daboll and table. So we can go ahead and work on that one and not turn into a Marcus Mariota type of situation.
Mariota.
Mariota. All right. So
Marcus Mariota.
So I think, look, the Brian Daboll hiring, very important, right? And I think has created even more excitement around what this new era is going to be. And I saw somebody bring up in the chat here about what you just mentioned of what the Titans are as a franchise and what they're not. Big Rich says, tried with Wisenhunt and Callahan, and it became two of the worst teams, right? Of going that offense, that pretty style of football, of throwing the ball around, doing the West Coast stuff and not doing the hard-nosed stuff. And it didn't work at all. And, you fired one to get the malarkey exotic smash mouth that led to Mike Vrabel, and now Callahan has led to Robert Saleh. And so I think it was always going to be the personality of the head coach more than the X's and O's scheme of the head coach. But the scheme is also strong on the defensive mind, on the defensive side of the football for Robert Saleh. And he is clearly excited about the offensive coaching staff that they're going to bring in. And another thing that I talked about with Robert Saleh, and we can kind of do this and talk about the difference of Brian Daboll's offense, is I'll give you a little snippet into my one-on-one with him and what he said about Brian Daboll to me in our conversation. But first, Easton, tell everybody about our friends at the Bone and Joint Institute.
The Bone and Joint Institute, they are, of course, the region's destination for comprehensive orthopedics and sports medicine. You can check them out. Just a quick drive south of Nashville. Where is it? What are we both clicking on this? What's happening right now?
Nope. I don't know what you're doing. I'm
just trying to show the thing. Do you see a graphic on your screen?
No. Here, I'll do it. It's there.
You do it.
It's there.
Look, it's not on my screen, so shout out StreamYard again for being weird.
It's there.
I trust you because I don't see it.
I promise you it's there.
Anyways, what a day. Shoot down 65 from Nashville, and you will find the Bone and Joint Institute right off of the interstate in Franklin, in my neck of the woods. They are a place where you can find over a dozen specialists who will help you with literally anything that is wrong with your body. If you have broken your body in some way, they can get you right. You have to know who to trust when you get hurt, and we trust our friends at BJI. They do it all under one roof for your convenience, too, so they're not going to send you running around town to a million referrals. From clinic to testing to imaging to surgery to rehab, it's all in that one big, beautiful building. Check them out today. Schedule an appointment today at boneandjointtn.org.
BTA Sports, better for betters. We all know this. You can download that app in the link in the description and Facebook title. Use the code ATOZ14 for a $9.99 weekly subscription, or ATOZ Sports for a 12-month subscription. Both codes get you a 14-day free trial. So there you go. You get to enjoy how to become a better sports better fantasy football player, better fantasy baseball player coming up this summer as well. BTA Sports, better for betters. So we'll dive into the Robert Saleh, Brian Daboll. Excuse me, I just did the thing that I told myself not to do. With this is that so the conversation that I had, more of what I mentioned with my one-on-one standing chat with Robert Saleh in the cafeteria, was he said that, when they were both in New York, Daboll and Saleh each kept having conversations with each other. Like, man, Saleh's like, man, I got this defense thing figured out, but I cannot figure out this offense. And Daboll's like, man, our offense is doing pretty well, but I cannot get the defense right. And so now so there is a relationship there. Like, that is not just a phony thing, is that there was a frequent back and forth between those two guys, fired by both New York franchises, sharing that same stadium and having opposite problems.
Isn't that funny? We do that all the time as sports fans. It's like, these two teams, boy, if you could just combine their strengths, they would make one heck of a team, wouldn't they? The Titans are trying it.
They are.
We'll see how it goes. It's a fun experiment.
One guy had Saquon Barkley, and then he didn't, and then the other guy had a bunch of defensive just studs with the Jets. And the Jets are the biggest laughing stock of the NFL now, right? Are they
still?
Yeah. Like, do we think the Jets are the big? The Browns are trying to make it really interesting over
the past decade, 15 years, the Giants and the Jets are the two worst in terms of win percentage, worst in terms of playoff appearance, worst in they're the worst. They're the worst. They suck.
Miserable. And he got 7 wins, out of Zach Wilson.
That's right. Great on a curve, perhaps. We'll see. I mean,
Maybe so.
To your point, and to my point that I'll continue to beat into everybody's heads, ultimately none of this really matters until they get better players, because the players matter more than the coaches.
So let's hear that clip from Robert Saleh about Brian Daboll's offense and how that can come into play as the OC here.
The offense and what that will look like, or what you want it to look like.
Obviously, Dave's and I have a tremendous relationship dating back to our time in New York. Obviously on opposite sidelines, but great empathy for one another, and just going through those experiences. But whenever you look at the dynamics of a head coach with his offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, obviously it's no different than kind of the way Kyle kind of handled me as a defensive coordinator. There's full autonomy with regards to game planning and making putting together the playbook and the scheme that's best for this group of players. But at the same time, there's always going to be discussion in terms of what it's going to take between offense, defense, and special teams, what type of game plan we need to formulate in all 3 phases to win a football game. And week to week, that's always going to be different. But the communication, the collaboration, the expectations, all those will always be communicated amongst the entire staff. And the idea being that while there's 3 phases to football, we're still one team, and those discussions will always be had.
So, Easton, let's go deeper on what you were saying about the difference of Daboll versus the rest of the NFL and what they're going to be doing, and why you like that for the Titans moving forward.
Sure. So we've talked, I forget when and how deeply we've talked about this, so let me just give a quick recap. I wrote about this at AtoZSports.com last night, which I recommend going and reading, because we're not going to get into all of the nitty-gritty that I wrote about, because this is kind of nerdy scheme talk, and I don't want to... I'm hand up, not an expert on NFL scheme, never have claimed to be. I understand enough to understand what's going on here, but if you asked me to get on a whiteboard and give you a 15-minute presentation on what the fundamentals of West Coast offense are after the first 3 minutes, I would run out of ideas. I also don't want to talk over everybody's head, because I know that plenty of football fans don't dive into this stuff. But what you need to know is Saleh comes from this sweeping craze of a variation on the traditional West Coast offense, which has been around for decades, that Mike and now his son Kyle Shanahan have popularized. And it's something you hear a lot about, the Shanahan-McVay tree. Like, it's those kinds of guys. It's McDaniel, it's LaFleur, it's the cool young kids, the hip young guys that the league has been chasing as head coaches for the better part of the past, decade at this point. We were kind of all, I guess, just guessing that Robert Saleh would bring that kind of offense to the Titans because it's what he's been around a bunch and it's what is most popular in the league right now. He mentioned yesterday that a good 80-90% of the league, I'll read the quote here. He says, Kyle Shanahan is one of the biggest, best offensive minds in all of football, period. And if you look at the NFL landscape right now, his offense and his influence is all over the league. Probably, I would argue, 80 to almost 90% of the league. And so Brian Daboll is going to be different. So from a game planning standpoint, and I'm just speaking for myself as a defensive coach, you're going through, it just looks like every offense is the same. But when you play the Tennessee Titans, it's going to be different. And so there's a level of game planning that's going to have to change within a week for the Titans opponents. Daboll, his background is, he cut his teeth in the NFL with Bill Belichick in New England. And that early New England offense that they succeeded with for 2 decades it has its roots in the Earhart-Perkins system, which is just a different kind of offense from what the West Coast offense is. Both of them date back many decades, but these most modern versions are kind of the Shanahan version of West Coast and the New England Patriots version of Earhart-Perkins. Some of the biggest differences are language. You'll probably hear a lot about that over the next couple of months, about how Earhart-Perkins has a focus on simplicity and less rigid routes, and the structure of the offense relies more heavily on the quarterback and his targets being on the same page mentally and kind of reading out a defense together. It's not just all on the quarterback's shoulders in terms of understanding what's going on here. And so I think another part of that is the Titans leaning into / hoping that Cam Ward is a smart guy and the receivers they've brought in are smart guys and they can be really in tune with one another to be able to succeed. The thing that I mentioned at the top of this article, Austin, is, and this has kind of guided our discussion for the past month. A month ago, I had a conversation with one of the decision makers in the Titans building before this search for a new head coach began, kind of just talking through it all on the front end. And we were talking about the importance of getting this offense for Cam Ward right, regardless of who the coach ends up being, like just how critical that is for the franchise, because Cam is the franchise. And this person told me, kind of in a nonchalant, just one man's opinion kind of way, man, I love the West Coast Shanahan offense that is all over the league. It's personally like really aesthetically pleasing to watch. I think it's obviously very effective. I'm a big fan of it personally. But I'm not sure it plays to Cam's strengths in particular. Mm-hmm. And again, it wasn't some definitive thing. This person was like wink, wink, nod, nod, telling me we're not going to go get a West Coast guy. But it did kind of plant a seed in my head and stuck with me because I think in general, I agree with that assessment. Think about Brock Purdy. He's probably the league's best example of a quarterback that is most finely tuned to succeed in that Shanahan West Coast offense, an offense that focuses on wide zone running, creating run lanes through a complicated, or not complicated, but I guess a sophisticated screen game, focuses on heavy play action usage and taking shots downfield and stressing a defense vertically in the passing game while spreading it out in the run game. And what Brock Purdy does to win is with accuracy and with timing, right? It's a lot of timing and kind of a well-oiled, finely tuned ballet of movement pre and post snap from that offense. Accuracy and timing aren't two things that Cam Ward can just not focus on, obviously. Mm-hmm. But when you think about his strengths and what his identity as a player is, well, he's doing more creating. He's doing more scrambling and extending and making magical X plays. Like, he's more of the artist than he is the technician in that way. And accuracy I wouldn't put that accuracy at the top of his list of strengths. I wouldn't yet put timing at the top of his list of strengths, but we obviously hope that he gets there. What this system is going to allow him to do is use his brain, which we've talked about at every step of the Cam Ward NFL process, Austin, right? Everyone we've ever heard from who knows Cam talks about like, wow, it really pops how naturally this comes to this guy from a mental standpoint. He just sees the field. He understands what's going on. He's ahead of the curve for a guy in his position, understanding what he sees out there. And this New England style offense that they're going to run is, I think, going to lean into that because it does require a quarterback to see what's going on and have a feel for what's going on, more so than just rigid rules being barked at you in a deeply complicated string of words that make up a play call from Kyle Shanahan in your headset. There's a lot that goes into it, and again, I'm not an expert on these things, but when I talk to people that are, there's an important distinction here. The bottom line is, it seems like Cam Ward and his strengths and trying to play to his strengths has dictated the Titans going out. And remember, during this OC search, pretty quickly in the process, it wasn't officially ruled out, but it seemed like some of these obvious West Coast guys were ruled out quickly. Like Mike LaFleur was not in the conversation. Clay Kubiak was not in the conversation. Those were a couple of guys that would have made sense from a connection standpoint. The three top candidates were Brian Daboll, whose offense is that New England-style Earhart-Perkins influence. Cliff Kingsbury, who runs one of the more unique offenses in the entire league. It's a air raid spread offense that he adapted from his time in college.
Yeah.
And Arthur Smith, that we talked about earlier, the closest thing to a West Coast, but really a West Coast variance offense that is more heavy personnel and downhill running than a true West Coast offense. So those were their top three candidates. It was only Adam Stenovich, the Green Bay Packers OC, who has not been a play caller and is behind Matt LaFleur, who runs more of that Shanahan offense, that was in the, I guess, kind of final four of guys that comes from that background. And even then, as a non-play caller and a young guy, who knows what they would have asked him to do if he had been the option. So I just find that interesting. I look forward to talking to these guys more and figuring out what exactly it means. But I think there's something here, Austin.
For sure. MB said back a few minutes ago, Shanahan's system is overrated. If the coach can't run it properly, they don't have the right personnel. I mean, you can say that about any system created.
Yeah, you're right, by the way.
Yeah,
yes.
Any system created on planet Earth is overrated if it's not run correctly. I think that's like, and I get the point that MB was trying to make, is here's kind of where, as I was listening to you, here's kind of my super dumbed down version of what you just said.
Okay.
It's one of my favorites. It's outdoor basketball guy versus indoor basketball guy.
Sure.
It's Brock
You've
Purdy.
used this before. I like this.
Yes, and it applies here great.
Yeah.
The Shanahan system is the indoor basketball guy. It is, you grew up playing organized inside basketball with the best gyms floors, the great rims. After every break, somebody's dad is taking that duster thing and doing the whole floor, so you can go back out there with a fresh, squeaky floor. We have great shoes. The basketballs are pristine. They're great. They're perfectly round.
It's a fast track, man. Fast track.
And you run a system that is on high intensity, that is in timing based, and it's built for that group.
Mm-hmm.
That is indoor basketball guy. That is the Shanahan system. That is Brock Purdy. But when it goes wrong, you're like, I don't know what to do. When you get punched in the mouth, and go punch an indoor basketball guy in the mouth, they didn't know what to do. Outdoor basketball guy, the balls got weird. The ball's got weird bumps on it. The rim's a double rim. It's got no bounce, no give.
That's right.
Sometimes you have a pothole on the court, or it's wet outside. The lines might not be correct. Who knows?
The backboard's made of metal.
Yes, it's call your own fouls, all that stuff, right? And what is it? It's based on feel. It's based on flow. It's based on instinct and knowing the game and creating. Because indoor basketball guy doesn't create. He runs the system. He follows directions. Outdoor basketball guy creates art. Cam is outdoor basketball guy. I want outdoor basketball guys because you can coach them up to the indoor guys. You can't coach the indoor guy outside stuff. He's just not going to apply. It's just not going to work. And so that's what I kind of, you see what I'm saying? Like if you're starting
I do.
I want the outdoor basketball guy first.
My 2 cents is that I think it's honestly kind of cope to say that one is clearly better than the other. To me, and I think that we're agreeing on this, like they both can be highly effective, both can win you Super Bowls. It is all about whether or not you have the personnel that is best suited for that. And so that's what comes back around to, I think, Cam Ward and his strengths dictating this. Because, again, I know that at least one important decision maker in the Titans front office is like, personally, I love Shanahan offense. I would love to have a team that is a finely tuned Shanahan machine like that. But they are doing what they think is best for the players that they have, which is key. We always point to examples in sports history of coaches trying to force the players to run their perfect, beautiful playbook instead of tailoring the playbook to the players that they have, and how that's kind of a pride comes before the folly that these guys fall into. I think that this is a good first step towards feeling good about the Titans not doing that. Is that fair to say?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm with you on that. Yeah, Jacob says one is more gritty and adaptable. Yeah, but the outdoor basketball guy, you got to be able to get rid of because he's probably fouls too much in the real game, right? Like, he's probably too handsy, too physical. So you have to be able to mold him into that. But you at least start with the foundation of creative, artistic, rough around the edges that the indoor basketball guy from his origin doesn't have, right? Well, and I think that's what I like the most about.
My proof that they both can work with the right personnel is that next weekend we're going to watch a Super Bowl between one team coached by a Kubiak with a West Coast offense and one team coached by Josh McDaniel, who, I don't know if y'all know this, was around for a lot of those Patriots Super Bowls. It's that Erhardt Perkins based system. And they both are very different in their. I saw just a couple of little examples about how different these things are. The target distribution on these teams couldn't be more different. The Patriots, I believe, have 20 or maybe not 18, like a high double digit or a high teens number of players who have at least 200 receiving yards this year. The Seahawks have, I believe, 2. And the Seahawks have a guy named JSN who has more receiving yards this year than the top 2 receivers on the Patriots combined. So it's like the Patriots are a ball control, time of possession, dink and dunk you to death. Everybody around here knows the Mike Vrabel way, the Patriots way. That's what they're doing over there. The Seahawks are kind of a Ferrari. It's like, we're going to do some awesome things, and we're going to rip your head off with a 40-yard throw and an incredible back corner touchdown pass, and we're going to win in maybe a sexier way. But they're very different, and they both can win, right? That's the point here. But both these teams have the personnel that is best tailored to that system.
Totally, absolutely. All right, let's go ahead and get to our last segment of the day and get the chat back more involved. We've got Titans players showing up more than I've ever seen players show up for a press conference, maybe outside of the Brian Arakpo retirement press conference. That makes a lot of sense for the whole team to show up, right? But I don't know. I don't know how many Titans players were there. 24, which would be like half the active roster, which would be crazy. I don't know if it was quite 24.
Here's the right way to put it, and I'm not going to call out any player in particular, but as I was reading through the tweets of who was and wasn't there yesterday, there were a couple guys there that I'm like, is this guy sure he's going to be around for the coach Saleh tenure? Like, when there are players who aren't locked into the roster showing up, that says something.
Yeah. Now you're looking at, like, why weren't you there? What did you have going on where you couldn't be there if everybody else was going to be there?
That's right. Or you in Cabo, man, you couldn't come back?
I mean, maybe. All right. So here's the question here. We've got Titans players rolling deep to Robert Saleh's press conference. Did he big deal, small deal, or no deal? Big deal, small deal, or no deal? But first, we'll tell you guys about my friends at windownation.com. January, it's buy 4 windows, get 4 windows for free at windownation.com for free estimate. I will tell you, just wait until next week because the calendar is in February. Still buy 4, get 4 free, but there's a little bit of extra Valentine's Day sprinkle on top.
Ooh.
And so I'm just going to tease you with that. So we'll talk about that next week. But buy 4 windows, get 4 windows free for January. February, just a little bit better there at windownation.com. They're great products. They're great process, great people overall. Roy runs the Middle Tennessee, Nashville area. He's the one who comes to your home to do the free estimate, to do the presentation. It's a no-pressure presentation. Like, we could have just said, we're not ready yet. And he'd be like, all right, sounds good. Great to meet you guys. And then left and been fine. because nice
That
guy.
part's
was like
huge, Austin, because everyone's been a part of a presentation where it's like, oh, they're freaking trying to shove this down my throat, man. This is uncomfortable.
It was not. Now, we were already
Okay.
pretty much set. We'd already decided because we wanted new
Sure.
windows. We needed new windows. It was time. This is the right deal for us in September to do that. So we were already in. But there was no pressure. We could have said, no thanks. Maybe we'll keep thinking about it. And he would have left and no big deal. And so, but it was great. And then we had our project manager, Dan, great guy. He came over for the measurements. The install team, phenomenal group of guys who came in and did a hard work, a full day's process, and went the extra mile with the cleanup and everything. So overall, very pleased with what our windows are. WindowNation.com is where to go. Buy 4 windows, get 4 windows free. February's get extra sprinkle love on that. So WindowNation.com is where to go.
One last shout out to our friends at AtoZSports. Use that link in the description below to get a 14-day free trial, and you will make more money at the sportsbook. It's that simple. Their advice, their analytics, it's going to make you a smarter, better. It's going to make you more money. Check them out today. Use that link for 2 weeks free.
All right, big deal, small deal, or no deal. Titans players rolling deep to Robert Saleh's press conference. Easton, what are you seeing from the chat so far?
What am I seeing from the chat? I'm seeing a whole lot of big deals, Austin. Big deal, big freaking deal, big deal. A couple of small deals from Billy and Nick, not going overboard. Tall Texan, ever the contrarian. No deal. He's not buying it. Austin is buying it. Jeff says medium deal, shows that they believe in him, but also just want to see him. You know, and there is something to this, to Jeff's credit. Whenever everyone has probably an experience in their life where you have a new leader or a new boss, and it's like, oh man, I better be there. I got to make a good first impression. Frankly, it's the anxiety that I was feeling yesterday, not being there, to be like, everyone in the media is going to have a first impression with Robert Saleh, and mine's going to have to come later, and then he's going to hate me. He's not going to know who I am.
No. Think about this. He positive spin on it.
Right.
He learned a lot of names he's going to easily forget yesterday. Right.
Great point. I don't have to stand out amongst the crowd. I can be.
Everybody was a new face yesterday.
That's
when
right.
Easton comes in, you're the new face.
I'm not sure that's true, but it's the story I'll tell myself to make myself.
Well, hey, I dropped your name. I told him, I was like, I got Easton. He's
I know. I'm
just
just
pissed.
But you know what I mean.
Laughed.
Even when in your brain you know it's not a big deal, which of course is not a big deal. In your heart, there's still that voice that's like, oh, you screwed up. You needed to be there. You had to be there. And I think the players probably felt that way about their new guy. But I also think that I don't want to spoil my take on this. I think that it says just as much about the players as it says about Robert Saleh. I think that may be the takeaway that is being buried here that I want to talk a little bit about. Best deal so far? Massive deal, says A-Rod. Humongous deal? Big deal. Football-focused guys would be there, and that's who he believes showed up. Small deal. So the majority of commenters, Austin, believe that this is a big deal. What do you say?
I think it's a big deal.
Okay.
And I was trying to talk myself off of it being a big deal, and I just can't justify it. Because in anything I would say after I said small deal, it sounds like a big deal. You know what I mean? Like, and so I'm just going to stick with what I feel. It's a big deal because as I was talking to Chad Brinker yesterday and then Robert Saleh and listening through the whole press conference, it reminded me of something that Kirk Cignetti in Indiana had a process that was, if you hear Kirk Cignetti be asked and answer a question about how did you guys do this? It's like, well, you follow a process, you follow a standard, and you are dedicated to that, and you hit it. And there's no special sauce. It's buy-in. It's buy-in, and it's discipline, and it's execution. And the fact that there were too many to count Titans players there, some that have expiring contracts in a month, that were there, that shows me there's some buy-in there out of the gates before anything's happened. That's huge because I don't think Robert Saleh is going to have a super special sauce type of program here. I think it's going to be more. I think the Titans are trying to do it more like the Indiana style of let's just keep it disciplined and follow the process and the vision that they have. And buy-in is important there. Hold on a second.
I'm with you on the buy-in. I think that that part is so obvious to me, right? Them being there. I
had something.
Then I've
so
got
there's
another take.
I'll let you finish on that because I have the opposite experience with something from my past of the lack of instant buy-in. But go ahead with your take off of my.
Well, just the other element of this that I don't want to get buried because again, the buy-in is obvious and the the impact from the Saleh side is clear, that this guy inspires confidence. The reason why I think it's also a big deal, Austin, is I think it says as much about these players as it does the coach. I think that the specific collection of guys you saw show up yesterday, a lot of the younger players, a lot of the guys that make up the core of this team, the future of this team, I should say. The Titans have focused a lot in the past year and change since Mike Borgonzi got here on getting guys that are made of the right stuff, not just great football players, but great people. And I don't think having truly great people, Boy Scouts, is a black and white requirement to have a good football team. But I do think when you're a team trying to build from the ashes from a foundational standpoint, it kind of is. So for a team with Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes, for a team like the Eagles or the Niners or whoever, those rosters that are already established, cultures that are already built, maybe it's a little bit more flexible whether or not your guy's truly a Boy Scout off the field. With the Titans, I think it really matters to lay a foundation, and I think the players you saw show up yesterday make up that off-field foundation. And their attendance is another tally in the column of these guys are about it. They're about it. They're about fixing this team, turning it around. They're invested. And it's not all young guys, right? Like Jeff Simmons being being the elder statesman leader of this team at this point. And his role and presence on this roster evolving, I'd say pretty significantly in the past 2 years, just with the way that things have changed and the way that he has changed, that we've talked about and praised. There's something different about it. Can't you feel that buy-in from the player side of things just as strongly as the buy-in that Saleh inspires?
Yeah, absolutely. And J-Dub says not everybody showed up. I mean, more players did not show up than did show up. And that's fine. Like, they're not expected to.
Right.
I don't know where they are. Like, the NFL players live all across the country and play in the cities that they don't play in, especially when they're young.
They also work a ridiculous schedule, and this is like one of the few precious days that they have to not be doing football things. So
yeah, because they're technically not allowed to, like, by the CBA, they're not allowed to do football stuff right now. They can rehab. They can work out.
Show up. We're just surprised so many chose to.
Correct. And even like Johnny Hecker and Morgan Cox are pending free agents, and that have way more things to do, and that have they're grown men. They are in their 30s. They've been doing this for a long, long, long time.
Morgan Cox is in his 40s.
Yeah. Right. So somebody asked, it'd be great to see the list of players that were there, Rob. I mean, I will go through as many as I can do off the top of my head, but there are more. I missed JC Latham there in person. I saw a picture of him online that he was there. So the fact that I missed one of the biggest guys on the roster in real life is telling to how many guys were there. Cam was there, Jeff, Io Manor, Femi, Kevin Winston. Let's see, Jalen Harrell was there. Tajay Spears was there. I mean,
I've got some more. Jackson Slater, Julius Chestnut, JC Latham.
Yep.
Morgan Cox, you mentioned. Kalel Mullings. Just reading tweets, but
yeah. Just a lot. So the majority of the rookie class was there, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that was obviously real big. I did not see Chig or Ridley, but I don't know what they're doing. Like they could be.
What does that mean?
Nothing. It means nothing. It means nothing. Tony Pollard wasn't there either. Neither was Dan Moore. Neither was. Yeah, Amani Hooker wasn't there. He's a captain. Like, so some of that stuff doesn't matter. Like, but the guys, I didn't see Cedric Gray. I didn't see Cody Barton. Like, so there's plenty of.
Where was Xavier Restrepo? Come on, man.
I mean, I'm honestly kind of surprised he wasn't.
Yeah, you're right.
That's kind of like the biggest surprise in no show was Restrepo. So here's this. Here's the other side of this. So I said it's a big deal because the instant buy-in to the head coach. When I was at Tennessee in college, it was my sophomore year when Lane Kiffin left in the middle of the night, right before the January school session started, the night before. Crazy.
Mm-hmm.
The Vols had to go through this hiring process, and they hired Derek Dooley. So I'm a sophomore. I'm going out. Players are going out. They had nothing to do. And so I had a couple players, football players that I knew casually from like social scenes.
Flex.
And when Dooley was hired, afterwards, the young journalism school guy in me was just, casually like, so how was the press? What was the first team meeting like with Dooley? Like, I didn't go. Like, what do you mean you didn't go? Like, I
Oh.
I was like, oh, really? And he's like, yeah, a bunch of guys didn't want to go. I'm like, what? And so I started asking more. And there was like, I don't know, half attendance is generous to Derek Dooley's. It's not a press conference.
That's crazy.
Team meeting.
I'm sure it was fine though. I'm sure that didn't mean anything. How'd that go? How'd it work out?
Not great, Bob. Not great. So that, and I'm like,
you're right. That's the inverse, right? That's what you're trying to avoid.
Yes.
Bad vibes.
So that's the absolute opposite of what happened yesterday. Now there's a lot of in between that is totally fine if nobody shows up to the press conference, but the team meeting of nobody being there was wild to me. And I've never forgotten that. That was in January of 2010. And that is literally 16 years ago this month. I have not forgotten that situation.
Wow. All right.
So I don't know. That's ultimately why I said big deal.
It seems like we are largely in agreement over this being a big deal. But again, it all circles back to now that the coaching chaos is winding down. I'm sitting here in Mobile thinking about the players that I'm going to be writing about over the weekend, starting to talk about the prospects. Like here, I said it before the head coach search process began. The most important job that Mike Borgonzi and company has this offseason is improving this roster with good football players. The second most important job was getting the coach. It seems like they have aced the second most important job. We can't say that for sure until we see him coach.
Well,
but
to me, what it sounds like is the coach makes the first most important job easier.
Absolutely. It all plays off of each other, no doubt. And the coaching matters tremendously. But those coaches that we are excited about, need some better players to work with. So that's the next step. And I'm excited for the next couple of months finding those guys.
No doubt. Easton has under 30 minutes to leave the Airbnb or he gets fined. Right. So here we go. Time for some good news. If you have good news, share it. Wilson County Hyundai, WilsonCountyHyundai.com is where to go for your new ride. Shane Bone and his team.
Brother, you'd be getting that fine. You'd be getting the invoice on that bad boy. I'd tell you what.
It's my Airbnb account.
That's
so
right.
I get to distribute the fine however I want to.
No, I'll be hot potato in that thing.
Oops, just like Robert Saleh has the connection of calling plays with his players, I had the connection of running payroll for my employees.
Yeah, that's right.
So, all right. Any good news you got here? Let's see. Jeff starts us off and says, good news. Drove 3 hours yesterday to Hilton Head, South Carolina for 2 jobs and was able to go to Kroger for the first time in years. Man, I miss Kroger. I have never thought about missing Kroger.
You never realize that the stores that are a staple in your little bubble of the world don't exist everywhere. It is kind of interesting, right?
It's funny because we've been in this house for just over 2 years. And before we moved here, I was a Kroger guy. I went to Kroger all the time. But now Kroger is on the more difficult side of the intersection. There's a Kroger to Publix, catty-cornered, right like 5 minutes from my house. I go to Publix. Why? Because I got no red lights I got to deal with.
Right.
No turns, no red lights, easy in and out.
I have not missed Kroger once. Here at the A to Z Content House, we were talking about it yesterday. JT and I needed a quick lunch. We went and grabbed a couple of pub subs from the Publix down the road, came back, and a couple of the guys that are from northern parts of the country were like, are those any good? And it's like, yeah, man. They don't have Publixes up there. They have different grocery store sandwiches that they were telling us about, but different worlds, different cultures. I was like, I got to put you on some game about some pub subs. Before, I think they were saying their plan is to grab some on the way back today. So maybe we'll get a report on that.
Hit the hot bar too. Mac and cheese on the way out the door. Jalen says, good news. My oldest 1-year birthday party this weekend. Congratulations.
Happy birthday.
I believe Robert Saleh said his birthday's Saturday. And one of his 8 children's birthday is today. And another one was yesterday. Don't ask me which one.
That's a lot of birthdays. It's a lot of birthdays.
Yep. D-Red says
cousins. If you got your family's birthdays in your calendar, then basically every day of your life you're sending a happy birthday text to somebody.
80 first cousins.
Couldn't keep them straight in my head.
No way. I don't even know if I have like 80 like third cousins.
Imagine the logistics of trying to plan anything. I mean, my family of like 9 total people. We can't figure out how to freaking align our calendars to go on a vacation this summer.
Yeah.
How do you? I mean, I would just say y'all show up if you can be there or don't. I don't know. I can't do this.
No pressure. Good news from D-Red. Power back on at my house so I can leave my sister's house. Congratulations. That's big. And my good news was going to be about the weather because, man, for me,
what's the scene on that? What am I coming back to today, Austin? What's going on up there?
Well, I don't know the updates as of today, but I know like many people got power back Wednesday and Thursday. And I don't know what today. Yes, but that's a long time from Sunday.
It is. It's outrageous what has happened. It seems like there's been some real eye-opening failures for the city. Do you still know anybody that's still without power?
I mean, I'm sure I do, but like if I
know of one person.
I don't the people that I communicate with regularly, no.
Okay.
I think everybody that I know and talk with, I'm sure there's people that I know that post on Instagram day 6 without power. I don't know yet, but
yeah.
But I do know there are still way too many thousands of people without power today in the Nashville area, which is crazy.
Got to get that fixed.
Look, it could have been worse. So my good news is that we were only without power for like 30 hours and we had great neighbors to help us out. And that was awesome. And so it could have been a lot worse for us. And I'm glad that we were able to not have to truly leave the cul-de-sac to, and we had a tree fall in the back, couple tree branches fall in the backyard, no sweat, no big deal. It's just trees down in the yard. Didn't hurt anything really. So all good. And Nick asked, did Nashville get ice or did you get snow? We had about 2.5 inches of snow on Saturday, followed by a ton of ice over the next day and a half, which made it miserable. Tough.
Yeah, I'd say my good news is along those lines. Just being blessed enough to be able to get out of town, even though it wasn't easy, and come to this event. You could feel the effect of half the country getting hit with that storm right before the Senior Bowl because a whole lot of plans were canceled, delayed, changed. The attendance was down at the Senior Bowl, but it still was a really good time, and it's always a great week, even when Mother Nature tries to ruin it.
Yeah, and I think this is ice storms or something that nobody can prepare for or get used to because it's not snow. This is not snow. Anybody that calls this a snowstorm, that's not it at all. Snow is nothing here. This is ice where the trees are falling because they are frozen and heavy with a 1/2 inch or whatever of ice, and it just sounds like target practice is going on. It has been a crazy experience. The ice stuff sucks, and so many people have it way worse. And I've seen a lot of people. I'll give a shout out to this. I think it's the Jets Pizza in Green Hills is doing half off pizzas from throughout the whole weekend.
That rules.
Just because.
Love that.
That's awesome.
Very cool.
So shout out to Jets Pizza.
All right, JT is hanging over my shoulder, essentially doing this right here. So
he's like, yo, we gotta get going.
It's time to wrap this thing up, brother. We gotta get on the road.
All right, that is it for us. Make sure you hit that like button, like the show before you get out of here. That goes a long way for us, and we will see you guys on a Monday where everybody's back in Nashville. So safe travels to Easton and JT and the rest of the A to Z crew down there in Mobile. Back home throughout the day, and we'll catch you guys later on. Have a great weekend. Talk to you soon. Bye.